Well, welcome to another episode of the Billy Ho Show. Before we get started, when I was a kid we had toys, and some of those toys were called Fun Ho, and they were made in Inglewood in Taranaki. And the guy started, I think his name was Underwood, and he started making toys about 1935. And in the 50s they'd progressed to tractors and trucks, and here's a couple of examples of those. And if you were in the big time, you could get a Tonka toy, and Tonka toys were made in America and started in 1946. And when they got to the 50s, they also progressed to trucks. And I just remember they had a bit of a tipper on them. You could do a little lever, you lift it up, and the back went up and dumped out all the dirt you'd put on the back, or stones or whatever you did, and then you put it down and off you went to get another load. But those toys were great, and I just imagine back in the day me sitting in that cab driving away, what I eventually did. But the great toys, the Fun Ho and the Tonka toys, awesome. So what we're going to do in this show is look at some of the things that happened at the recent Timaru horsepower show. And there were steam engines, there were trucks, and some of the trucks that are on display were on the Southern Run. So it was the Classic Commercials run, organised by the Southern Classic Commercials Club, and guys from the Northern Classic Commercials Club came across on the ferry and joined in. So that was 10 days of travelling with classic trucks, and they're all lined up here at Timaru. So we'll start off with those, and then we'll have a look at a Foden steam truck and some of the other things that happened at Timaru. So let's get started. And all these trucks are on the South Run. So they started in Picton and came up, and then they all start heading down to South Island. I think they're all ending up at Rod Garrity, and another Dodge, beautiful. Kenworth coming up, look at that. That might be Ray Reid. It is Ray Reid. International Mount Cook Airlines. Another Kenworth, looking great. Another R-Series Mac going by there, NK Wood, the old Austin, another Kenworth. Seems to be a fair collection of Kenworths here, that's for sure. There's Rod Garrity with his Dodge. That could have been a comma back in its day, with a stock crate on, and his mate Ian behind driving the other Dodge. Garrity brothers from Greytown. There's Ray Reid, he's the king of the North Island Commercials Club, International. And this is probably a bit too modern. International F1800, and there's the odd looking Scania, and here comes the army towing something, a trailer. Doesn't that look great? And that's the ergomatic cab, and it's either a Leyland or a Albion. A cab over Kenworth, and I'm not quite sure when they started to arrive, probably about the 1970s. Looking good. And the men that restore these trucks, they certainly do a good job. And the truck that's about to arrive, the yellow with a funnel stuck up the front of it, is a Foden steam truck. And yeah, a big tank of water underneath it, chain driven, and yeah, looking good. And it looks, it doesn't look out of place with a big Foden up its bottom. So I've got two Fodens together there, the Foden original, which were in the First World War, and a later Foden following it up. Look at that, beautiful. The truck that's coming at us, I think, is a B-Series Mac. And the B Series Max never came to New Zealand, but a couple of 3 guys have brought them in from Australia and done them up. I think this one lives at Motueka, if my memory serves me, or maybe it's the white. But anyway, that's the B Series Mac, and followed by an R Series Mac, which came after the B Series. And next up is a Volvo, old-fashioned Volvo, road metals. Followed by another R Series Mac with the old flag flying there, and Stan Williamson's Crusader, driven by his son Alf. And this odd looking thing is another steam truck, but it's in the form of a butter box. And here comes my favourite truck of all, the old TM Bedford. I've spent a fair bit of time in one. And here's another shot of that B Series Mac. We actually went to America, and there were a lot of B Series Macs there. Some restored, some not. Some have gone past their use by date and just rotting away. But an interesting looking truck all the same. But it's just interesting they didn't come here. Maybe you had to have Leylands and Bedfords and things like that. Even the R Series, that didn't come until the late 60s. The Volvo, I'm not sure when they came in, but they seem to have been here quite a while. Another R Series Mac behind that. And the truck behind that is a Leyland Crusader, and Stan Williamson had a whole fleet of it. Fleet of Leyland Crusaders, and I see his son Alf is driving that one. And here comes the Butterbox steam truck. Yeah, a lot of work would have gone into putting that together, that's for sure. And last but not least is the old TM Bedford. Here's a picture of me with my TM Bedford back in the day. I can just see make out an old Superpoise comma. I'm not quite sure why they call them Superpoise. It seems an interesting name for a truck, but I always thought they were the cutest thing. My grandfather used to drive one, an Arctic, quite a big one, and he collected milk cans for the Timaru dairy factory. This is an interesting truck from yesteryear, the old jailbar Ford. That's probably about a 4 or 5 tonner maybe, but it's equipped with an Arctic, and the theory was if you could get an Arctic, it was more versatile than just having a straight 4-wheeler. So this is an Arctic on the back of a Ford, looking really good. What I've got here is a copy of Talking Trucks. This is a book I wrote a couple of years ago, and it's the history of New Zealand trucking, and it's all from the programs that I did between 2013 and 2016. I'm going to let this go for $25, so it's a special. So Father's Day is coming up, Christmas is coming up, so if you'd like your copy, there's my phone number, 027 277 0717, just send me a text, or email me, billhohepper@extra.co.nz to get your copy. $25 and the history of New Zealand trucks. The second Wheels at Wanaka event is on this coming Easter in 2021, and that's on Saturday and Sunday the 3rd and 4th of April. They're planning a bigger and brighter event with more vehicles and machines working as well as on display. Cars, trucks, tractors, traction engines, scrapers, dozers, graders, the lot. If it's got wheels, it'll be represented at this amazing event. They're having an earth moving only day on Good Friday the 2nd of April, and there's a $10 entry for this. So go to the webpage www.wheelsatwanaka.co.nz for more information. We'll be there filming the event, so we look forward to seeing you there. So these trucks went on to finish their run. I think they ended up in Invercargill at Transport World. Next we're going to have a look at a Foden steam truck. It's amazing just how many steam traction engines came to New Zealand. They were invented in the UK about 1860, and there were reports of them being used in New Zealand for a variety of purposes in 1879. Canterbury and Southland had their fair share of them because of the layout of the land. We saw one of them a few years ago being used by an old couple at nightcaps to run a sawmill. They were an amazing team. They assemble on mass at events like the Edendale Crank-Up, machinery events in Ashburton and Christchurch, and of course here at the recent horsepower event in Timaru. People who own them are obviously passionate about them, and they keep them up to date, particularly the boilers, which need to be certified on a regular basis. What we're going to do now is talk to Alan, who owns a Foden steam truck. We saw a Foden steam truck in the London to Brighton commercial run a few years ago. So let's talk to Alan. With me is Alan, and welcome to our little show, Alan.
Thanks, Bill.
And Alan's got a Foden steam truck. And we were in England looking at the Foden collection, and they had one of these in their museum, or something similar. And how long have you had this?
Oh, 6.5 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, got it. We bought it in Australia, but it's an ex-New Zealand vehicle. It was new in Masterton in the North Island. Worked all its working life there, and it went to Australia about 1958.
Oh, okay. What did it do in Masterton? Just generally?
The guy, Jack McLaughlin, owned it, and General Cartage. It's a three-way tipper, so he carted a lot of gravel for roading around the district. He carted product. They had a farm up there. He carted the hay, the wool and grain and what have you into Masterton, and apparently he carted the power poles for the power reticulation down to Featherston when they did that.
Wow.
Another project that did was the foundations for the Masterton Town Hall. He carted the gravel out of the river up and did all the foundations.
Well, you just imagine back in that day, you sort of park down by the river and everybody
hand shovel it in, apparently,
and hand shovel it out the other end. Well, no, it had three-way tipper, so it would be...
Yeah, tipped it off when he got to where he was going.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Anyway, there's a water container underneath the back that holds...
right in the middle, the yellow tank you can see between the chassis. Yeah.
Well, how many gallons does that hold?
It holds 800 litres.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Litres.
So yeah. Whatever that is divided by 2.5. About 350 gallons, I suppose.
So when you look at some of these other steam engines, somebody's in charge of putting coal or wood into the fire. Does this have the same?
Yeah. It's mainly set up for one-man operation. Like one man can crew it. Two is better because you're not looking when you're putting a fire on. But it's just got a small firebox, 18 inches square. Set up. So the guy on the right-hand side, he fires. The guy on this side obviously steers and drives. And then you work between you to keep the water in the boiler. You've got to always watch that. You're putting water in and go and stop on the water.
How fast does it go?
We cruised at about 25, 27 kilometres an hour.
Really?
But it will do 33, 35 probably, flat out.
Solid wheels, the ride's not bad?
No, the ride's good. Nice front spring here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's a good ride. Yeah.
Because you sort of look at solid wheels and you think, gee, that must be rough.
Yeah, it's pretty harsh on the back because it's got heavy springs, but no, it's a nice ride on the front.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Can we see you jump in and...
Yeah, what do you... Yep.
So once you're in here, it's like getting in a car for you, is it? You know where everything is and what does what.
To drive it, that's the throttle. So forward is more, that's stop, and then this engine's it's a compound engine, so it uses the steam twice. But because it's a tiny little engine and it's high geared, it's got a feature they call double high. You pull this lever back, pull the throttle back, and it gives you extra power for starting, and if you need a bit more just to get up the little hill. Then we've got the fire down in there. If you can see down in there, that's the fire, and the fireman just puts a bit of coal in now and again. And then we've got the water level in here in the boiler. We watch that all the time. We keep it between half and sort of full glass. That's the pressure gauge, tells you how much pressure you've got. And that valve there is for putting water in the boiler, injector. That one there sucks water out of a creek. We've got a venturi.
Oh, okay.
And down here, we put a hose that's hanging underneath, you'd see on the left-hand side. Clip that on there, put the end of it in the creek, turn the steam on and it sucks water out of the creek so you can refill the engine out of a creek. And then the other one is that there puts the water in the boiler when you're driving along. You just use that. That's no water, and that's the pump on. It's just got a friction drive in there. So, and the old foot brake down here, you know.
But Mr. Foden must have had a bit of fun thinking all this up.
Yeah, well, by the time they built this, 1925, they started in 1902 or 03 or something.
So they had a good handle on how it all works.
So yeah, this is 11,880 is the serial number. So they built a few by the time they built this. They knew a bit about what they were doing.
Sure. It's just interesting, when we were interviewing a bloke in England who had a steam truck, and he was saying that they were still buying them, and councils and people like that in 1930s.
They were. The last of these were built in 1931.
Wow.
And then Sentinels, another breed, they built a batch in the 1950s for Argentina.
Really?
And because they were going to a coal mine in Argentina, so I think they bought 50 Sentinels in the 1950s. Yeah.
Wow. This is a flywheel. That's
flywheel.
spinning.
Yeah, that spins.
So there's no chance of you catching it and sucking you through.
No, you sometimes put your knee against it, but you take it away pretty quick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not like sort of first gear, second gear in a vehicle.
we've got 3 gears.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
one and two there, and top gear there, third gear. But it's not like a car, it hasn't got a clutch. You put it into gear and then you open the throttle and drive away. So you've got to select the gear that it's going to work. You can't obviously take off the load on a hill in top gear. No. You've got to take off in the gear that's appropriate.
And you're in that gear for the...
Yeah, you can change when you're on the move, we do. We change up, not too bad, you just slip it out a second and then shut the throttle and pop it into top. But changing down's a bit different.
Okay. Listen, can you just show us how it all works? Just maybe just take it a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll leave Linda with you.
Okay. We've got the old whistle here as well.
Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Good on you. Good on you, Alan. Thanks very much.
No worries.
What we've got here is a Model TT Ford, and some great innovations came from Mr. Ford. And we saw one of these in the Nelson area a couple of shows back. It came in 1915, and it was an ambulance in the First World War with Roger Humphreys. But one of the interesting thing about this thing is the wheels. It's got air in that one, but they're only that wide. And being that wide basically means they can go through the mud and the slush and no worries at all, because we went on a four-wheel drive track from Wongamomino in our four-wheel drives, and it took going down this Wongamomino road 4 hours. And these guys went down there in about 3/4 of an hour, and when they came back, they said, "You haven't got a road a bit more challenging, have you?" So it's just interesting how these old trucks got around through the mud and the slush. Mind you, back in the 1920s, that's what the roads were. A light. If you go for your warrant of fitness and he says turn your lights on, you've got to pull the little lever down, get your box of matches out, light the wick and shut the door. This is kerosene, so it was a little kerosene job. This truck's actually for sale. There's a number up there you can talk about. But this one has got a battery, which basically means it's got a starter motor in there. And apparently the starter motors came out about 1919, give or take. And the 3 pedals in there that are the gearbox. And there's a gear lever or a lever in there that looks like a gear lever, and what that does is back here it's got a 2-speed diff. So if I look under there, and sure enough there's a lever that pulls a little switch on the side of that diff, and it puts it into a reduction gear down the back. So that's what the gear lever in there is for. And on the back here we've got a solid rubber tyre. This is just solid rubber, and there's holes in it that go all the way through. And what that was designed for was a bit of cushioning. So as you're travelling along the road, it sort of cushions you a wee bit with a solid wheel. But you're not going to get a puncture, because nothing is going to go into it. And the tyre is actually wider than the one in the front. So that one, the front one's about that wide, this one's about this wide, and that's what it was. So there you go. Homemade decks, homemade cabs, and the C cab. And you can see that's what they're called, and most of the trucks of this era had a C cab. And the pedals there that are the gearbox, we've got a lever to change the 2-speed lever at the back, and a handbrake on the other side. So there you go, the TT Ford. My 2021 truck calendar is now available, and here it is. It's a picture on the back of all the trucks that are on for each month, and the one on the front is a Lodestar Austin, I think 1950 or 1951. But these are available at Wickles, Paper Plus, and a variety of independent print stores or bookstores. So that's that one. And my wife Linda, she also does a calendar. So if you're into gardening, or your wife's into gardening, or you know somebody into gardening, this is a great calendar for that. And if you look at one of the pages here, I'll just show you. She's also got a colour-coded area which tells you what the best time is to plant. A bit like my Maori fishing do, good, bad fishing. This is the same, good, bad planting. So it's all there. And this is also available at Wickles, Paper Plus, and a variety of independent bookstores. If you can't find one, we do have 1 or 2 copies here. So you can just email me, billhoheper@extra.co.nz, and we'll organise to get you one if they've run out. So anyway, Wickles, Paper Plus, or a variety of bookstores around the country. So there you go. This is a 1926 Chef, and I think 27 or 28 they started building the 6-cylinder engine. This has got 4 in it, and another homemade cab, if you like, with a bit of a C-looking aspect to it, but it's got doors. And if we look inside here, there's got 3 gears, 1, 2, 3, and a handbrake and brake and clutch, but the accelerator is in the middle of the brake, clutch, accelerator, which is pretty much common in this era as well. On the steering wheel there's an advance and retard, so there's 2 levers to get that motor running just so. And these mirrors are pretty much what trucks had from this time forward to about, when was it, the mid-60s. Just a little round mirror that stuck out on this, and this would have vibrated like hell. I never used to have one on the other side until later on, but most trucks just had one mirror stuck out the back, and you did the best to try and see. I just remember driving a A-Series Bedford. I had a great big top tent, the Ridgeway Circus on the back of the truck, so even that mirror stuck out as far as it'll go. I still couldn't see what was coming along behind. So the mirrors they have these days, if you look on all these modern trucks, they're all stuck out and they're great big square things. You can certainly see a lot more than you did back in this time. But yeah, 1926 as opposed to 1919 next door. we're progressing. Next we're going to join the old goose rooter from Geraldine, and he had his tractor at Timaru. Well, with me is the famous goose rooter from Geraldine, and you've seen this tractor from start to finish. And here he is. I see he's done a bit more to it, put a nice little cover on the side there and a couple of little dials on the other side there and look pretty neat.
Yeah, look, you've got to have the wee dials to look professional sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, do.
First of all, you said you forgot your hat, so, these are hats, especially for you.
Excellent.
But just finished it off a wee bit, so just to make it look a bit more complete. So she goes right, starts up all right, and that suits you. So yeah, humps along the road quite nicely actually. So
I see the Western Star seat there.
Well,
that's pretty bloody flash.
Yeah, well it is. It's the whole thing. There's bits of trucks, Foden, Ford, Isuzu. So it's got the batteries out of a Kenworth because Kenworth know how hard it is to start a truck, but they know nothing about power of when they're taking off. So I thought I better put a decent quality seat on it. So I thought, well, put the Western Star seat on it, eh?
Fair enough. Now, did you know that Western Star was the great-great-grandson of Diamond T?
Was it?
Yeah. Because the people who bought Diamond T was Rio, and then Rio and Diamond T were bought by somebody else, and then somebody else bought that, and Volvo was...
Yeah.
And anyway, Western Star was the end product of all that buying up, other
buying
trucks.
and selling.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was at McDowell's, they had Western Stars, but they also had the Road Boss, which was the predecessor to the Western Star. So there's number 60, which was still on the road. It's the only one still on the road out of the first batch of Western Stars that come into New Zealand.
Wow.
So I wanted to get that one in particular because I'd worked on it, I'd driven it, I'd worked for McDowell's, and I just like Western Stars. But someone beat me to it, and I was like, bugger. So it might come up for sale again, but it's just that wee bit of a wee bit of significance history for me because I'd driven it and worked on it and that sort of thing. But it's the thing nowadays is what we've got nowadays has been chopped and changed hands multiple times over the years. So
I see you got lights on the front of this. Is it going to do some night work?
Wow, if you want the honest truth on that, 3 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't sleep because of the pain, so I come out and welded up the bonnets.
Yeah.
And it wasn't quite right, so I gave it a twack there with the hammer, and the glass fell out of the original Fordson one.
Oh, wow.
And broke, and I thought I'm not going to have time to get it for the show, so I just put some lights on it that were off an old Merc spreader. So that's where those lights come from.
Fair enough. So you're pleased with it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And is it basically designed for the pulling, like tractor pulling?
It is designed for the tractor pulling, but unlike a lot of the modifieds out there, I've still got plough arms and a PDO shaft. Okay. So I can put a mower on it, put a baler on it, just for a bit of shits and giggles. So I'll go to ploughing championships and do the speed ploughing.
Robbie?
You want to hear it go?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Right, okay, sounds good. Any excuse, eh?
Kick her in the guts.
It's a comfy seat, this one.
You got plenty of room there.
Oh yeah. Ooh, make sure she's out of gear. Turn that on. Hey? Here, there, it's a lever Doesn't go too bad considering I swapped it for 424 packs of spates, eh?
Well, that's our show for this week, and we'll see you all again next week.